The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. It's time for the Guillotine Grapevine, a podcast for the land of 10,000 wrestlers. 10,000 wrestlers. Now, here's your host, award-winning wrestling broadcast journalist, Jason Bryant.
And welcome, wrestling fans, to another episode of the Guillotine Grapevine, the podcast for the land of 10,000 wrestlers. My name is Jason Bryant, with you today, telling you it's a great time to be a Minnesota wrestling fan because, as the NCAA announced on April 18th, right around 12 o'clock Central Time, Minneapolis will be a host for an upcoming NCAA Division I Wrestling Championships. That year will be 2020. That location will be US Bank Stadium. That's right. The home of the Vikings will be the home of NCAA wrestling for 3 days in March of 2020. This is a special episode. We're going to get the reaction, the immediate reaction from Gopher head wrestling coach Brandon Eggum, from Gopher alum and the head of the Booster Club, Mac Ryder. We're also going to talk to Tom McGinnis, the University of Minnesota's event management. He is the senior associate athletic director there. And we're going to talk to Mike Bush to get a wrestling fan and a lifelong Minnesotan reaction to the announcement that the NCAA Division I Wrestling Championships are coming to the land of 10,000 wrestlers in March of 2020. Let's get to the program. Cue the loon. Now up here on the Guillotine Grapevine, we're going to be talking to Tom McGinnis. He's the Senior Associate Athletic Director in charge of event management at the University of Minnesota. As a big part of this bid process, deals with the University of Minnesota and Sports Minneapolis. First of all, Tom, welcome to the program.
Great. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's just get the brass tacks here. What's the timeline and how excited are you guys that the NCAA says US Bank Stadium, University of Minnesota, you guys get D1 Nationals?
Yes, well, we're extremely excited, obviously, to bring this type of caliber championships to Minneapolis, and the University of Minnesota is tremendous for us. We actually began the process back last summer when the NCAA identified the championships that they would be going out to bid on. Those bids were due back to the NCAA in August, so it was a quick time frame for us to kind of put our materials together. Obviously, for this particular championship, we partnered with our friends at Sport Minneapolis as well as US Bank Stadium and started going through and evaluating whether this would be a good fit. We certainly felt it would be, certainly a little outside the box from the type of venues that the NCAA has been in recently for the NCAA championship, more your traditional arenas. But we felt kind of a unique set of circumstances really played into our favor. One, obviously wrestling is huge in Minnesota, huge in the Big Ten. So if there's a part of the country that could be successful in bringing in a larger fan base to this event, we felt here in Minnesota, obviously a cutting-edge, state-of-the-art facility like US Bank Stadium provides a great venue not only for the student-athletes and the 330 of them that will show up to compete for the wrestling championship, but also the fans that come to this event year in and year out, as well as hopefully opening it up to, with increasing the capacity of the venue, opening it up to another group of fans that maybe haven't had the chance to get to this event in the past just because the tickets have been such a hot item. So looking at a greater capacity and getting more people into the building. And obviously, very excited for the director of our wrestling program and Coach Eggum. So I think this will just be a great way to showcase our program.
What were some of the concerns that you guys may have had about saying, okay, US Bank Stadium, how do we make sure that this is, it's still intimate, the sight lines are good, and people aren't feeling like they're a half mile away from the action?
Yep. No, and actually, it's some great conversations we had with the NCAA, the wrestling committee, as well as the staff at the NCAA, because after we submitted our bids, we certainly went back and forth with some questions, and actually the chair of the committee, as well as the director of championships works with wrestling, actually came out and visited US Bank Stadium in February. So it really provided us a great opportunity to kind of show them the venue, because I think they certainly from the outset had some of the same concerns, right? You're in the top level of a football stadium. Are you going to be able to see the action going on with the mats? And, I think some of the things that work to our advantage are, one, you've been to these wrestling championships before. You know how tight the floor can be when you've got 8 mats out there for the first few sessions. What this venue will enable us to do is kind of spread those mats out a little bit, so they're not so on top of each other. I think we really looked at making sure that in our bid specs, we made sure we could accommodate about around 20,000 seats just in the first two levels of the stadium based on our layout. So we can make sure that those seats would still be very similar to the types of views that people are used to in the different arenas that the championships have been hosted. And then certainly the kind of the new territory will be kind of that upper level and trying to see what kind of experience we can make sure is a positive one for folks. I think if you've been in US Bank Stadium and see the size of the video boards they've got, it will quell some of your concerns that you may not see something on maybe the furthest map, but boy, those video boards are going to provide a great opportunity to showcase the matches and the action going on down there.
Yeah, I have living here locally. I still haven't had a chance to go into the stadium yet. It doesn't hurt. Well, it doesn't help that I'm not a Vikings fan. So, and the Bucks haven't come up to play in US Bank Stadium yet. But when it comes to the amenities that this building has, and the fact that it's new, and it will still be considered new 4 years from now when we finally get, or 3 years from now when we get into the doors there. What are some things that US Bank Stadium has brought to the table that you really haven't had in a venue in the Twin Cities before?
I think the biggest thing for us is space, and working with our coaches. And, I was down at the championship this year in St. Louis. I mean, you've got 330 athletes, and sometimes you just need space. You want to have mats where the guys can practice, where they can warm up, just enough locker rooms where they can go and kind of set up camp for some of the teams that have a lot of wrestlers competing, or some of the institutions that are just bringing one guy. I think the space will be a big asset for us, that they'll actually be able to have a little more space to spread out and kind of do the things that they want to do and prepare for that championship experience. I think it will be nice because hopefully we're going to be working on some amenities where even in those spaces where the action is not taking place and the student athletes are kind of preparing, we want to make sure they can kind of see the action. So I think that's something when you get in some of these hallways and some of these arenas, you're trying to figure out, all right, am I second up? Am I third up? Am I on deck? Am I in the hole? And what's going on out there? I can't see what's going on the mats because, you're kind of queued up waiting to go out there. So we're hoping to really try and provide some opportunities where all the participants, as they're there, can kind of see the action, follow their teammates as they're going along, and kind of utilize that space as a big advantage for us. And then, obviously just some of the great technology that comes along with a venue like this, Wi-Fi, the large video boards that will provide a lot of replay opportunity for us. There's a lot of premium spaces that provides the opportunity to do some different hospitality things with different groups of fans. So I think it's those types of things that we're finding in a venue that's as new as US Bank Stadium that will really be an asset to the championship.
All right, I got to ask this because I've been the PA announcer for the D1 championships the last 2 years. How awesome is the sound system in there? Because that's what I'm worried about.
Oh, it'll be fabulous. Just fabulous. I mean, obviously we'll not want to make sure we're adjusting it as necessary based on where the fans will be seated for this event, but I think it'll be tremendous.
All right, back to less things about me, more things about the fans. As we big part of the bid process, and one of the disappointments some of the fans had about New York City, even though it was a fantastic venue in Madison Square Garden, was the Fan Fest, the place for the fans to mill around following. How much is that part of the bid process, and do you guys map out have a location mapped out for that yet?
Yeah, we've got some ideas. I don't think anything's been finalized yet. Certainly now that we've been selected, we'll start working more closely with the NCAA on plans for hosting here in 2020. So we've got a couple different ideas. Some of them may be in the venue. Some of them could be outside the venue. So I think there's some different ideas we want to explore. I know that Fan Fest is somewhat scalable based on the city they're in and what space is available, but we certainly would like to provide that opportunity for fans and kind of explore some different ideas on how we can maybe build upon what has happened at the Fan Fest in previous years and make it a unique experience here in Minneapolis.
This isn't the only championships that the University of Minnesota and the Twin Cities have been awarded. And how does the wrestling championship differ from some of the other bid processes? The Frozen Force coming up in St. Paul next year. How does the wrestling differ from the rest of them?
I think the true process is fairly similar. The NCAA kind of puts out their specifications for a championship, and you need to go through them and make sure you can meet all their criteria. And then, kind of submit your bids. I think wrestling was a little unique this year when obviously we're proposing something a little outside the box. When we bid for the volleyball national championship, they've been used to being in arenas, so bidding for that in the Target Center wasn't that outside the box for them. Or obviously you mentioned hockey and Xcel Energy Center. We've been very successful in hosting that championship there in the past. So I think probably what was a little unique with with this wrestling bid is it's something different from what they've been used to. So going outside your traditional professional arena to host this event. And I think that's why there was really some value in having them come out and kind of see the venue for itself and kind of see kind of the amenities and the opportunities that this event provides. Because, I think that the committee has identified that one of the goals of this championship is start to diversify the crowd that's attending. I mean, obviously, there's huge support for college wrestling, and obviously a lot of fans throughout the country that come to this event on an annual basis. And a lot of you can see as you look around the crowd at this event, you'll see obviously the different pockets of fans from the different institutions. But the building fills up very quickly. So I think they look at this as an opportunity to kind of say, all right, can we look at some different fan bases, diversify our crowd a little bit, and kind of start planning for the future of who that next generation of wrestling fans will be.
How excited is the University of Minnesota to work with a facility and the crew at US Bank Stadium? Because this is brand new. The Gophers used to play at the Dome, and now they've got their own facility. And now the University of Minnesota coming in to US Bank Stadium for certain events. I mean, how has that relationship been fostered over the year this thing has been up?
It's been great. We've had a lot of opportunities to partner with them, obviously working very closely with them on the planning for the Final Four, which will be the year before this in 2019. So already have kind of those working relationships established. Obviously spent a lot of time with them in those 2 months this summer where we needed to pull the bid together and really appreciate the effort they put into it. They were trying to prepare to open their stadium for the very first time and host their first event. And we kept trying to meet with them saying, hey, we need some more numbers and we need to look at this. So we're very appreciative of Patrick Talty, the general manager there, Jerry Goldman, the entire staff who has really helped prepare us for this championship, kind of put a lot of time and effort in with us, not only over the summer where we prepared the bid specs, but then as the NCAA was coming back with us with questions and clarifications throughout their review to be able to help us respond very quickly and kind of answer any questions they have. And I think really put together a positive opportunity for the sport of wrestling.
A few of you guys are going to be under some pressure because this is the first of the facility of this kind, and the pressure to be like, okay, do we do this again? I mean, you're the guinea pig.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it'll be something that I think not only ourselves for sure, it'll be the first, I don't know, they make it a WrestleMania, but probably will be the first wrestling event in US Bank Stadium. And certainly will be a little bit different for the NCAA staff. So I think we're all looking forward to it as an opportunity. And again, how can we make it a great experience? So it's kind of a no-brainer. Oh, yeah, it was so amazing. We've got to get back to US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis and the University of Minnesota at our next opportunity. So I think that's our goal. Obviously, again, providing that great experience to student athletes, the fans, and have the NCAA view us as a viable opportunity for them moving forward with this championship.
I want to just go back to the attendance as we finish up here. And the initial schematics, the discussions were anywhere between 20,000, 24,000. What if is there that going to be a finite number that, okay, we're going to cut it at this many seats? Or if, with that upper deck there, if there's more demand for tickets and this thing says, hey, we got 33,000 people that want to buy tickets. I mean, how are you going to work with the, is that number fluid or is that going to be finite?
No, I think right now we're looking at it as a fluid number. I mean, obviously we would want to make sure we price everything appropriately and recognizing that, obviously there'd be a different price point potentially for that 300 level seat. But, I think our goal is to see, obviously I think we've got a really good shot at breaking the attendance record, the 6-session attendance record for the championship. So I think we'll kind of look at, finalizing that exact layout. We kind of had some proposals to them and kind of figure out exactly where we're going to put the mats. Therefore, what seats are we going to have included in the manifest on each of the levels and really provide ourselves an opportunity. Obviously you want to sell from the bottom up, but again, where's that opportunity up in that some of those higher level seats that I think will still have a good view of the championship, still will be able to enhance that experience through the use of the video boards and other technology in the stadium. And look at, what does the crowd look like if we get close to 30,000?
All right, and if folks here locally want to be part of it, maybe the volunteer crew, because there's always a big part of the volunteers. I mean, is that process open for, engagement yet, or how can they get involved if they live here locally and they say, hey, I want to help out?
Well, we'll definitely have an opportunity. Obviously, you attend a wrestling championship and you see that there's obviously a myriad of folks that have to contribute time and effort to make it a success. I mean, just looking down at the floor and seeing all the folks that are working at the different mats, working with the officials, there's certainly going to be a community effort. It's just not simply Sports Minneapolis, the stadium, and the university that'll be putting this on. It'll be a community effort. So as we start moving down the planning process, we'll be reaching out and engaging those who are interested in helping, and certainly hopefully we'll have opportunities for them.
Now we're talking to Gopher head wrestling coach Brandon Eggum on the news that the 2020 NCAA Division I Wrestling Championships will be coming to Minneapolis, specifically U.S. Bank Stadium, home of the Minnesota Vikings, and numerous sporting and concert events. First of all, Coach Eggum, you've got to be super stoked that the NCAA Championships are coming back to Minnesota.
Yeah, hosting an event like this for our program is just wonderful. So we're super excited. Our athletes are excited, and I know our fans in this community is excited about this opportunity to watch the best NCAA wrestling sporting event in the country.
What was the Minnesota Gopher wrestling program's role in this bid process, and how active were you involved?
Well, I was at the site meeting they had at U.S. Bank Stadium a couple months ago, and basically, there's a lot of people that put much more time and work into it. I guess from my perspective, I just said some of the things I thought would be exciting is this is a different experience for fans of being in a stadium. It's always been an arena. One thing that's always tough for student athletes at every arena we've been in is space, warm-up space, and locker room space. You see guys and teams, you try to get nearly 70 teams around that stadium, and there's guys all over the place, and you're sitting in hallways back there and trying to find a spot for your team. Now it gives us the opportunity here. There'll be more than enough space to make sure the student athletes get treated the way they should. So that'll be exciting.
People have said for years that, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities area would be primed to bring it back. Of course, the Excel hosts the Minnesota State Wrestling Championships. Their floor space probably not ideal for this type of event. But when you first heard that Minneapolis was going to put in a bid for this, and they were saying U.S. Bank Stadium, what was your initial reaction?
Well, I did experience back in 1996 when we had the NCAA wrestling tournament here. It was at the Target Center, and I remember the fans and people in the community talking about what a great event it was, from the restaurants, the entertainment, the hotels. Just, they think, the city of Minneapolis was wonderful at hosting it. But one of the concerns was the sightlines, I guess, at Target Center. So I knew the fans would love it. As far as having a wrestling community, I thought it'd be great. I was, wondering what the appeal would be when you go to a stadium versus the arena, how the NCAA would look at that, and if that would be something they were nervous about. But I know they seemed super excited when they got into the venue and they got a chance to look at it and see the layout and everything that U.S. Bank brought to the table. So I felt really comfortable meeting with the NCAA committee and the site group. And so we're just really excited now for the opportunity to move forward. And this will be huge. We can sell to recruits and get other wrestling fans here in the Twin Cities to see what a great city this is.
When it comes to the site visit, the people complain about the sightlines. You were talking about the Target Center, and then the year after at Northern Iowa in the Unidome, which is not typical of a lot of dome stadiums. It's a little smaller. The mats were in the center. People are worried about that being the case. From what you saw on the site visit, what are some things the fans can kind of rest easy on as far as how the mats are situated and how you think the fan experience is going to be?
Yeah, and, I got to be, I'm not an expert in this area, and I've only seen a little bit, so I don't know exactly where the plans will be. But I do know they're trying to continue to, to make sure that they, where the way they set it up, that they bring it in and keep it somewhat intimate and tighter. I know that was a concern. They don't want it to feel too open, so the way that they, drape things off and stuff, I'm sure will play a role in that. And they feel the sight lines will be phenomenal just from the standpoint of where they have their suite set up, and just from that aspect. From what I understand, they're using about half the floor space for the arena, and I think the other half could be open for warm-up space and practice space back there. So maybe it's even potential that fans and can experience the opportunity to go back there and watch guys warming up and training and getting ready before they, walk out into the arena. And so I don't know exactly the exact layout or if they've determined what that would be. But that's kind of my thoughts on it.
the timing seems to be very beneficial for the wrestling program here at the University of Minnesota. How much do you think this can help energize the program? Because you did talk about recruiting, but now you're the head coach. You've got your staff set. There's another crop of wrestlers set to come in, but the Nationals are in Minnesota. I mean, this has got to be exciting for everybody in the building right now.
Oh, this is great. I mean, our like I said, our athletes are pumped about it. Our staff is. Our fans are. This would be great for recruiting. We'll have an opportunity to bring a lot of young recruits that'll come onto campus here just to come out and watch the NCAA tournament, and they'll get a chance to experience and see Minneapolis, firsthand, and that's going to be a selling point in itself. And so we're excited about it. It's really great news for our program and everything that's going on here. It's just another real positive thing that helps move us forward in the direction that we're going.
Taking a broader view in terms of the University of Minnesota, this is one of numerous championships that are awarded to the Twin Cities region in the next couple of years. What is the general feel from the whole department, and how big of a deal was the wrestling bid combined with the other bids? The Frozen Four is here next year at the X in St. Paul. The women's Frozen Four will be on campus at Ritter. I mean, there's a lot of championships coming to campus and to facilities near campus in both St. Paul and Minneapolis. And how does the wrestling bid fit into the overall university's feeling about all these championships?
Yeah, overall for all the programs, this is exciting, obviously, to have this opportunity to host a NCAA championship event. But in wrestling, I get the sense that they realize what a powerful fan base, how strong it is. The NCAA championships have always been very well followed. And as far as trying to build this stadium, they have some goals. I've heard talk of trying to break the record here of putting the most people at an NCAA wrestling event ever. And with the stadium, they have the opportunity to do that. So they're excited. And so it's really cool to see this administration, everybody behind it, and the time and work they put in to make this event possible. And so hearing the news is just tremendous for us.
It doesn't exactly relate to the NCAA championships, but does this give you any ideas to maybe say, maybe we can go in there and break Iowa's attendance record now that we know what facilities open for wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, it's one step at a time. I know for the NCAA championship, I don't know what the average attendance is, and I don't want to state numbers that are wrong, but I think it's pretty clear that you always have a following of a solid 20,000 people that want to come and watch the best wrestling event in the country. And so with the stadium here, obviously there are seats and the capabilities of doing that. And if they want to, I think they have the opportunity to maybe even sell, cheaper seats up in the third level if they want to. They'd be maybe farther away from a viewing standpoint, but for some young kids and clubs and stuff, it might be a great opportunity. One of their only times in their life they get a chance to watch an NCAA national championship, and so it'll be great.
Now we're talking with Mac Ryder, three-time All-American from the University of Minnesota. Now just kind of a general public servant, a guy that's got a job. He goes to Gopher matches, sits in the stands, not in the staff. You're a fan and you're an alum again, Mac. And how do you feel about the announcement that came down that Minneapolis in 2020 will be hosting the NCAA Division I Wrestling Championships?
I'm super excited about it. I kind of still have a role within the program as I'm the president of the Booster Club, which has some responsibilities, not a ton, but gives me a chance to kind of give back a little bit. But I think this is a great opportunity for Minneapolis and for the University of Minnesota to kind of show that there's definitely a wrestling area here.
Yeah, so when you knew about the bid, because based on your employment, and we won't really go into that, but you knew that this bid process was coming, and how excited were you, and how hard was it for you to kind of contain your excitement about, okay, this might be a reality?
At first I was kind of, I guess, a little nervous, which I think a lot of people are when they've seen now that we did win it, and it's being at US Bank Stadium. This is a tournament that's been in arenas for a long time now, and it's worked really well there. But that was kind of one of the big selling points that they sold the NCAA on, was that the first year they took this tournament off a college campus was the year Minneapolis hosted at the Target Center in '96, and now their next point was, let's take another leap of faith. Let's go to a stadium, and like I said, before the actual visit when the NCAA came out here, and we walked through US Bank Stadium, and we walked, kind of envisioned, here's where the locker rooms are going to be, here's where the warm up area is going to be, there's where the 8 mats will sit there, and we walked around, we sat in different sections of the arena or the stadium to check sight lines, and I'm not kidding when I say I think it's going to be an incredible host site. The stadium will work just fine. It's going to be fun.
Now, you didn't grow up that far from Cedar Falls, so I'm curious, did you go to the NCAA Championships where they were at the Unidome in 97?
I did. I was there. That was my first NCAA tournament I had ever gone to, and I would have been about 13, 14 at the time. I didn't get to go to the finals, so I didn't see, when they kind of moved some chairs in onto the floor, but I was there for some of the earlier sessions, and, at that time I was just, I would have thought they could have wrestled it in, anywhere, and I would have thought it was great. Now I've been spoiled with some better arenas, and I can look back and say that I don't think the Unidome was a great site, but I also think it's, the way US Bank is set up and the way the Unidome is set up are two entirely different things, and those steel bleachers aren't the most comfortable thing, especially when you're sitting in there for 4 hours at a time, 2 times a day for 3 straight days, can get a little long. And I think that's what a lot of people are comparing it to when they're saying, we've tried this before, we did it at the Unidome, and I don't know the total cost of what the Unidome was, but US Bank Stadium the price tag was around $1.2 billion. So I think that they're entirely different venues.
Now, from somebody who lives down there in Minneapolis, you are probably maybe the target, the avatar of the type of fan that will come in and they want to know what's going on around the arena between sessions, the nightlife. So, Coach Eggum's not my expert on this, but you are my expert on this. So let's lay it on us for fans that are listening that know the area here in Minnesota, but know those who will be listening to figure out, okay, what can we do down there?
Absolutely. I think that, the nice thing is that for those that do fly in, you got the light rail that goes right from the airport, will run you right downtown or drop you off. I think about, there's people that will, when they get to the airport, when they come here, they won't have to get in a vehicle the rest of the trip, their entire time. They fly in, they get on the light rail, they take it downtown. There's so many hotels downtown Minneapolis. I live down there. I live about a mile from US Bank Stadium in the area called North Loop, which is it's a newer area within the city of downtown. It's kind of really blown up. It's over by where the baseball stadium is, where Target Field is, and the Target Field came to Minneapolis 3 years before US Bank Stadium did, or 4 or 5 years before. And what's happened is that the area around Target Field has built up, and there's so many things to do there. And I think we're going to see the same thing. Fortunately, we don't host for another 3 years, and by then, US Bank Stadium will have 3-4 Viking seasons under it, and I think you'll see that the businesses start to realize that there's a major money making possibilities there with the crowds that US Bank will draw, but between the downtown, I think Minneapolis is an extremely clean downtown, which is what I really like. I think there's all kinds of opportunities to eat and drink. If people are into the craft brewery scene, there's one of those about every block, it seems like anymore.
That's true. I'm not going to complain about that at all.
No, going down and having a couple before a Twins game, there's patios everywhere. Now, I don't know that anybody will want to sit on a patio in March, but there's a lot of options. And then as far as food goes, if you fine dining, there's any number of non-chain restaurants that are, if you can eat anywhere from get a nice burger, or if you want to go out for a steak dinner or something fancier, there's plenty of options. I think that through hosting the cities, this Metro's hosted the Ryder Cup. We've got the Super Bowl coming. We've got the NCAA Final Four basketball tournament coming. There's a reason why those things keep coming back here. The MLB All-Star Game was here. There's plenty of things to do in Minneapolis that can entertain you between sessions.
How does this make you feel as an alum? And, there's been the coaching change, and this seems to be the timing is right to engage and energize the wrestling fan base in Minnesota and the alumni fan base for Gopher Wrestling.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I don't know if it'll help with recruiting. I would think it would, man. If I was a high school senior or junior and Coach Eggum came to my door and said, that you come wrestle for us, you're going to get a wrestle the NCAA tournament in front of your home crowd. That's a major selling point. I think that's really something that's awesome for the program. But I was, this has just kind of popped in my head, but random. I was thinking about it. That will be Mark Hall's senior year, so he'll come back for his senior year to wrestle in front of Minnesota, the state that he wrestled his high school career in. I think that'd be kind of a pretty cool thing for him as well. So, I just think that the site works extremely well on a lot of fronts.
And just so anybody's wondering, I think the average high temperature that week in March is approximately 40 to 44 degrees. So it's not parka weather, but they also have skyways down there. So if you want to park, you don't have to go outside a whole lot.
No, you could take, like I said, the light rail from the airport, get dropped off. Depending on where your hotel is, you may have to walk about a block or two to get into a building that's connected to the Skyway system, and you may never need to step foot outside the rest of the weekend. It's pretty convenient if the weather's not bad. But 45 is not terrible weather, especially up here. It gets much worse, and I think that people will be. That's going to be something I think a lot of people will act like it's far worse than it ever really will be.
Let me tell you, folks, you're listening, you're not from the area. January is cold here.
Yes.
Early February is cold here. March is, from a guy from Virginia Beach, is annoying, but it's not like cold. Last week it snowed, and it was 78 one day, then it snowed, and then it was gone in like an hour. So no big deal, folks. So anyway, want to thank Mac Ryder for his time and jumping in. This is exciting for people in Minnesota. So I'm glad you had the opportunity to come on the show again a second time and give us some insight on what it's like to live down there and work down there and see things a little bit from the inside.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We've talked to people involved with the bid process. We've talked to the head wrestling coach of the University of Minnesota. We've talked to an alum of the University of Minnesota. Now we're going to talk to a wrestling fan of the state of Minnesota, not just a Gopher season ticket holder, but a man who you've seen his glorious mustache in the guillotine at University Center Rochester. He is the man behind Mike Bush State Farm. Mike Bush, longtime friend of mine. Welcome to the Guillotine Grapevine, sir.
Thank you, Jason. Good to be talking to you.
Well, considering I usually squat at this guy's cabin whenever I get the chance down in Wabasha, but we're talking about the NCAA Wrestling Championships coming to Minneapolis in 2020, and having been to the championships pretty much every year, save one or two here and there, what's it mean for you as a Minnesota wrestling fan, as a Minnesota sports fan, to say, all right, cool, I can just drive up to the cities and check out the championships?
Well, like you say, Jason, I've been to probably 20, 25 tournaments over the years, NCAAs, at the Target Center, and I think it was 96. We really enjoyed that. As far as wrestling the tournament coming to Minnesota, I think it's great, number one, for the business community, but maybe more importantly, the people of Minnesota, the wrestling fans, will be able to attend, when the tournament is in other states, financially it may pose a burden to a lot of people, but looking forward to it. It's always a great time.
Your son Charlie and I, we go back to our days in college at Old Dominion. He's back up here working for St. Paul's Finest. And what's it mean when you can look back at 96 and go, you took Joe and Charlie to the Nationals, and now that there's another group of generation of parents that can have that opportunity to take their kids to the NCAA Championships here in Minnesota?
Well, as you know, we always reflect back on the history, and we had a lot of good times at that tournament, and some of the old coaches we meet, and for the younger people of Minnesota to be able to go to this tournament, be a good experience, great experience. It's something they can reflect back on for years to come, and go Gophers.
What makes the opportunity to see a tournament it's cool to go to St. Louis. It was cool to go to Madison Square Garden, but when you're a native Minnesotan, when you're somebody that's spent your entire life, working and raising kids and running a business in this state, to see a sport you love so much have its pinnacle event come for you 90 minutes up the road, for a lot of us around the city's 15, 20 minutes away, that just brings all sorts of opportunities. What are you most looking forward to for 2020?
I always look forward to the people you meet. Obviously, we know a lot of the wrestlers have been involved with following the teams and involved in the sport for many years. But I always look forward to not only the wrestling, but just meeting a lot of the other coaches and refs, and just the whole atmosphere. It's exciting.
When you first heard that Minneapolis was putting in a bid, what was the first thing you were thinking? It was like, where? And then you found out it was the U.S. Bank Stadium, the Vikings facility. What were your thoughts on that as a possible venue?
Well, my first thought was, hey, it'll be great, and I just wonder if they can fill the place up. Just be huge event for Minnesota. I think it could be just a great venue. I personally haven't been to the stadium yet, but I think it'll be something that people will remember for a long time.
Now, just while we have you on the horn, Mike, because I've been trying to get you on this show or my other shows for a while, just because of your glorious mustache and all the support that you've been given to Minnesota wrestling over the years. What is it about the sport of wrestling that keeps you involved, even though Joe stopped wrestling after high school, Charlie stopped wrestling after college, and that just keeps you donating your time and working on the Clash program and putting in ads in the Guillotine? I mean, what keeps you involved with the sport of wrestling?
Oh, I just enjoy it, and it's all about the people, and I really love the sport, and it's all the people. You mentioned those tournaments that I've been involved in. It's all about the people we work with. The Clash, for example, meet coaches, meet fans from all over the country. You indicated, like, Charlie went out south, out north, Old Dominion to wrestle. Just the people you meet. That's what it's all about.
All right, Mike Bush, we're going to eventually have the Mike Bush mustache moment of the match. We're not quite sure how we're going to do it, but glad to have you on the program. We'll see you in a bit, but always glad to get you on the horn. And, hey, you need some insurance down in Rochester. It's 507-281-1210. You'll like Mike, MikeBush.org.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
Is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.